was going to be me. I was going to have to be the lead. And this is what happened. On a ship, that's the informant, informed Rosenthal, the main guy, and told him that Leonard had been killed utilizing a poison snake in order to make it look like an accident. On May 26, 1983, at approximately 2 p.m., a funeral for Michael Leonard took place at the Poling Memorial Garden Cemetery in Hiram, Georgia. The Reverend Robert White of Dallas, Georgia, officiated the ceremony. Everhart and Clark Funeral Home, Dallas, Georgia, conducted the burial services. Leonard's death was reported in the Baldwin County local newspaper. So the next time you go to Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia area, look me up.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. I just have a little short story we're going to end it with. I just want to thank all of you folks for coming here. I'm going to sit down. It's easier for me to sit down and read. But this book, The Deepest Street Memory, the Lawler stories, it's out of print, but there are copies in the Lawler Library, in the New Hampton Library, and in Wacoma and Fort Atkinson. And also you can get it as an e-book for $3 if you read e-books. I get $2 there, so if you're one of the 3 million deaf people in Iowa that haven't read it, maybe I'll be able to update my 2019 Camry. But I'm going to sit down and I'll read this final story from the book. It's called The Depot Is Gone. Those of you who have been around for 5 or 6 decades can fully appreciate my thoughts on looking back through the years. It is impossible to remember every single minute detail of an event, building, face, or conversation. Rather, it's more like a decoupage of random, sometimes overwhelming thoughts, a rekindled emotion, a color, a smell, a sound. But the recollections intertwine, sometimes pleasantly, sometimes with great sadness in your mind. They pull you back in time. They are seductive. They are a gift. That happens to me every time I return home, and Lawler will always be my home, to visit family and friends. I cannot resist taking a half hour to be by myself, to walk around town alone, to get lost in my thoughts. In some ways, everything about Lawler has changed. In other ways, nothing has changed. Most of the people in my youth no longer live here. They've either moved away or passed away. Many buildings have been torn down. Main Street, which really isn't Main Street, I mentioned that a couple times in here. Some of you, most of you probably know, but some of you may not know, that when we look out back of me, it's not really Main Street, it's Grove Street. Back in the late 1800s, I think, we were a block north of here, where the park is, and the whole thing burned down. They rebuilt it a few years later, it burnt down again, and they said, to hell with that, we're just going to move with the block south. So many buildings have been torn down. Main Street, which really isn't Main Street, has suffered the same issues as every small town in America. Most of the merchants have closed their stores as townspeople drive to New Hampton to do the majority of their shopping. Where there once was a gas station on the west edge of Maine and another on the east end, there is now a home on the west and a repair shop on the east. Sheckleton's grocery burned down on a Sunday morning years ago. O'Connor and Burns grocery store is a distant memory. Benny and Minerva's Melty's grocery store has not been in existence for decades. Lawler Hardware is boarded up. Jerry Mayer's Meat Locker no longer exists. Millie Vetzel's beauty shop is no longer there. There are 3 fewer taverns. Shell's Hatchery is closed. City Nights Hardware is history. Chick Leonard's Barbershop is gone. But in my memory, are still there. I can feel them. I can sense them. I can hear them. Just as a song can stick in your mind forever, I occasionally find myself repeating the words painted in large letters on the east side of Redwood Cottage door. Don't say bread, say clean-made bread. I can still see in my mind's eye the handwritten chalk signs on his windows advertising the week's specials. Occasionally, we surreptitiously sneak in and cross out a letter or two, especially if we somehow could change it to a dirty word for revolution. I picture the Christmas decorations hanging across Main Street that really isn't Main Street in December. They were simple and probably inexpensive, but dearer to me than the multi-lighted Christmas trees in New York City's Times Square. I can imagine the depot, a stone's throw from the stockyards. My friends and I were absolutely fascinated watching cattle being unloaded and being loaded onto the train cars. They were herded into corrals, and we would stand on the wooden fences, listening to them bellow and snort. I walked past Onyx's Montgomery School, where there are now nice homes and manicured lawns. I can still see Tom Moosey Britt slamming his softball over the west fence during recess on the street, rolling into the public school playground. I see Binky Ernest, his Nick, taking black and white pictures with his Kodak camera from the fire escape of Mount Carmel. He is doing his darndest to include as many of us as possible in the photo as we lined up for a May Day parade from school to the church. I walk past homes where I once delivered the Des Moines Register Tribune 7 days a week and try without success to remember often who lived there. I go past my first home where I lived on the north side of the track. It is a half block west of the park and protected by a huge evergreen tree several feet higher than the roof. I am pleased that the tree is still there, still standing. I walked by there again Friday. I was afraid in the thunderstorms of summer and January blizzards that would fall into our house. That gorgeous evergreen has to be 100 years old and still quietly and proudly guards the front entrance to the home where I lived for the first 4 years of my life in Lawler. Then I proceed south across the tracks, east for a couple blocks, and then south again. I stand in front of the home where I lived the longest on South Depot Street as memories fled over me. It was where Grandpa Sheridan moved to from the family farm south of town. We moved into it after each of them died, Grandma in 49 and Grandpa in 1950. Special memories about each of my siblings and Mom and Dad fill my mind as I think back, and I'm glad to be alone for those 3 minutes. Joe Scally still lives across the street. For some odd reason, that gives me comfort. Like some things are still the same. Like not everything has changed. Like there is a real connection to my past. Maybe he and Mark and Johnny Ed will come running out and yell, "Hey Sheridan, we're going to the park. Want to join us? Timmons and Leonard and McGreevy are going to be there. We're choosing up sides in 15 minutes. Hey, your brother Tom can come. Tell him to bring your bag." Finally, I almost always end up on Common Cemetery where I stop and say hey to Mom and Dad, Grandpa and Grandma, Aunt Stella, Uncle Chad, Aunt Amy, and Brother Mike. His infant daughter, Teresa, along with so many other friends and family. I see names that have slipped my mind for years. Chuck Leonard, who gave me my first haircut, and his dad, and is the dad of my best high school friend, Tom. Gene Kinner, whose nickname Wally is on this tombstone, so he'd be recognized. Eugene and Jean Timlin, who were the parents of 5 boys who became dear friends. John and Edith Scally, wonderful neighbors, the parents of John, Patty, Joe, and Mark, and more, so many more who are part of the fabric of my life. It seldom makes me sad to cemetery walk. Instead, it reminds me of the smell of homemade bread from Mother's oven. Getting lost with Dad being back home in Lawler remembering what little a 5-year-old boy can really remember about his departed grandparents. Running home on Christmas Eve from Aunt Stella's telephone office, trying to catch Santa going up the chimney, just barely missing him year after year. Learning how to treat customers with respect at Uncle Chet McCone's gas station. Drinking my first beer, it was a Schlitz, by the way, with my older brother Mike, and feeling all grown up. Today the depot is gone, the stores are mostly gone. Main Street, which really is the Main Street, does not have the same DNA as my Main Street, but somewhere in Lawler, right at this moment, there was a little redheaded boy living the absolutely perfect life. He may not realize how terrific it is. Someday he will. He might be taking the people and events and buildings and sounds and smells and trends around him and moment for granted. That's okay. Because someday he will realize what a little slice of heaven this little village really is. He may move away and raise a family. He may develop new friends from faraway places. He may make millions. He may barely pay his bills. He may become famous or live a quiet, tranquil, anonymous life. Regardless of what he becomes or where he settles down, a part of Lawler will always be with him. Just as it's a part of me. My introduction to this book, I said that my favorite singing song of all time, singing group of all time is the Mountain Brothers. There's a line in one of their songs that I absolutely love. The man I am resulted from the boy inside of me. And that's why I thank the people of Lawler past. Thank you for making me realize the man I am resulted from, the Lawler boy inside of me. Thanks for playing such an important role in my Depot Street memories.